enemy that will lead to a mutually assured destruction, because that was the term, add mutually assured destruction. No, if you have minimal rationality, which is true, doesn't exist anymore, the rationality of wanting to survive. So your threat was not credible in the first instance, because if your threat fails, you won't make good on your threat. And your adversary knows that. So for a long time, nobody exactly understood how nuclear deterrence could function, until in 1973, that's precisely when Raymond wrote his book. People understood, some people understood, that the mere possession of nuclear weapons constitutes an implicit threat which no one actually has to make. So the very concept of intention to retaliate, to kill 10 million people, etc., was put outside the picture. No more intention. The mere possession of nuclear weapons was enough. Yeah, exactly. So it's called existential deterrence. It was called existential deterrence. And the kind of rationality at work here is the kind of rationality in which the agent contemplates the abyss and simply decides never to get too close to the edge. As a very important American, no, don't terrorize me, and look at your watch, please. As a great American philosopher, David K. Lewis, said, you don't tangle with tigers, it's that simple. It's here that the dialectic between fate and accident enters the stage. Our only salvation depends on accident deciding not to occur, as it were. But we need the inscription of accident in the future, lest we should be trapped again in the Jonah Minority Report paradox. It's not the future if you stop it. In other terms, we need that which threatens us of complete annihilation. That's the sign of the sacred, as René taught us a long time ago. The sacred without any divinity, the sacred without God. And that was a fundamental intuition of René 40 years ago, an intuition to which he returns today in this extraordinarily dense book, but a book that is also incredibly pessimistic to the extreme.
I'd like to take up the challenge of responding to Jean-Pierre.
Well, I tend to agree with what has been said. But if my book has, what should I say, ethical existential meaning,
Speak up closer to the mic.
it is a call for people to worry more about the subject and less about politics. The subject today has nothing to do with politics. And politics, in a way, is the best means to forget about the things that are threatening. Because they turn it into a duty. And the book, what is the name of the German philosopher who wrote the first book?
Girard?
No. You know, the one who said we're going to have to use the bomb to save freedom. What, even before, at the time it was important.
Hans Jonas? No. A German philosopher, you said?
Who wrote that first book on the bomb?
Oh, Robert Jung. No?
Yes.
I don't know.
Karl Jaspers?
Karl Jaspers.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Karl Jaspers.
Who more or less pursued that the bomb would be used because freedom would be threatened. And therefore, our belief in freedom being the most important thing, we would have to use, I don't know, wasn't that the meaning of the book? Which, that's the one Jonas found scandalous. Yeah. And I agree with it.
Girard was Jasper's fiercest enemy. Yeah.
So it seems to me the preservation of life has become such an important thing And today the domains are mixed together. We cannot say, for instance, that the armament industry is more dangerous than the daily consumption industry. Both are fundamentally the same. They are the continuation of the human library. More is better always. And we are becoming aware that everything is becoming one unique threat. You know. So, for many years, even the Christians have stopped to use their own apocalyptic text. They pay no attention to them. Without saying so, no one does. They pretend they do not exist. Or if they talk about the subject, they always talk about the Apocalypse of John, as if the more important apocalyptic texts were not the gospel texts, in particular 24, Matthew 13, Mark, and so on. And this is, I've lost my reason.
No, but about your pessimism, that was
About my pessimism is the fact that we manage. Even today you can see that even if all governments recognize the necessity for doing something about it, it will inevitably mean changing what the modern world loves most. You know, this more is better, so completely that it's really unthinkable. They have accepted to discuss the threat, or even in the Congress, sometimes they touch on one of the aspects of the subject, never two or three at the same time, because it's just too scary. So, therefore, there is a universal desire to blind oneself today, which I think one has to write about and against. That's what the Clausewitz is doing.
Thanks to Jean-Pierre for making much more specific the point I was making. Point that René, expulsion of violence from violence,
yes.
so that the Holocaust is no longer an act of intentional violence. And I fear that that's going on within cover. That the theory is being changed from a theory of violence and its role in human life to a theory of imitation. Now, you don't need a René Girard to tell you about imitation. You need a genius to tell you about the link between imitation and violence, the inevitable link between imitation and violence. That's the conceptual breakthrough of this organization. And if we lose sight of it, we might as well, as I say, turn out the lights and go home, because we'll be just another MLA gathering. And that's a